This is great, Christina.
Greetings, beloved Star Child Rising. You are in Christina's Corner, and I am Christina. Welcome back to the podcast where I have the opportunity and the honor to highlight and celebrate individuals who are out here leveraging their gifts and their talents to make a positive impact on the world. Today, we have a truly fascinating and insightful guest joining us, Lloyd Strayhorn. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard his name. Lloyd is a renowned numerologist, author, professor, consultant, and media personality whose unique perspective has captivated audiences for decades. With appearances on shows like Oprah, Geraldo, and the Montel Williams Show, Lloyd has brought his unique insights to a national audience. Lloyd and international. It's a pleasure to have you here, Lloyd. Thank you.
Christina, it's an honor and a pleasure to join you. I am very, very honored, believe me.
Thank you. Thank you. So Lloyd, we always start off with uh, 6 questions on this podcast. And the first one always has to do with how you were raised. Can you take us back to your upbringing and share what sparked your interest in numerology? How'd you get there?
Well, it was a process, but my beginning started in Harlem, where I was born. My mom was a Virgo, my dad an Aries. I was also the oldest of a brother and a sister. Well, actually, my sister came after me, then my brother came. And then we grew up in Harlem. And then from there, we moved to Washington Heights, where I went to Stitt Junior High School. And from there, I went on to George Washington High School there. And then eventually I went to a historically Black college in Virginia. And little did I know that if somebody says, Lloyd, you're going to be an astro-numerologist, an author, and have students around the world, I'd say, yeah, right. Because, Christina, I was the worst math student in the school. Seriously.
Oh,
Now, if you add it, I can do it. Multiplications, equations, algebras, calculus, statistics. Oh, no, 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 no. Mm-mm. But 1 + 1 is 2. I got that.
so how did numerology come on to the forefront for you?
Well, actually, it started in junior high school. I was always a kind of a bashful kid. And, when the hormones start kicking, when you start coming past when you come into your teenage stage now, the girls are looking much better than the books, okay? But but at the same time, I was kind of like shy about how to approach them. And so one day came across this thing of astrology, and right away I took to it. So I says, okay, I am an Aquarius. So I read everything I possibly could about Aquarians. They did this, all the famous celebrities. All of this was to build up my courage. Little did I know that it would lead me into the world full time of astrology, then numerology, which is why I became an astro-numerologist. And in the course of this journey, Christina, that's when I found out that not only I want to know about myself, everybody I met and encountered always want to know about themselves. So, for example, a person would say to me, I don't believe in astrology. I say, well, what's your sign? They say Capricorn. They wouldn't even think about it. The same person who said they wouldn't believe it within a blink of an eye would give their zodiac sign. So kings and queens and presidents and you name it have used it. Financiers like J.P. Morgan, when asked, does it make millionaires? He says it makes billionaires. He was even taught astrology by Evangeline Adams, the prominent astrologer of her day, who was an Aquarius like us, born on February the 8th. And in her book, The Bowl of Heaven, she said she actually taught J.P. Morgan. He actually had astrologers on his staff. And he died on March the 31st in 1913. Fast forward over a century and a half. Don't the name J.P. Morgan still exists in the financial world?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
thanks to astrology.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's really fascinating. Numerologists like you always just blow my mind with the dates and the numbers that you remember so organically. How you remember that, I have no idea, but Um, but thanks for sharing. That's great. So number two, so along your journey, you had a background in sales. I did my homework, Lloyd.
I can
You had a
tell.
background in sales, real estate, insurance, publishing, and even music. What was the turning point that made you realize that numerology was where you wanted to go? And what was the journey like to becoming a leading authority in this field?
Well, actually, my decision to head in this direction started in college.
Okay.
I was a member of fraternity. So me and my best friend, who's a number seven like me, Paul Chisholm, we would sit in the frat room. We stay up all night talking about astrology, the zodiac signs, and this, that, and the other. And it was in the summer of my freshman year in college that I was introduced to somebody that says numerology. That says number who? That was my first time hearing it. And so I merged the best of both worlds together because in astrology, they would say this sign shouldn't go with that sign. So, for example, we know that fire and water don't mix. But what happens is, and the beauty of getting into astro-numerology is seeing the exceptions. So, for example, if you take the famous actress Angela Bassett, who is a Leo, she's married to Courtney Vance, who's a Pisces. Well, they say she's fire, he's water. They should mix. But she's born on August the 16th, 1 + 6 is 7, which is a water number. And her husband, Courtney Vance, is born on March the 12th. And 1 + 2 is 3, which is a fire number. So her fire sign interacted with his fire number, and his water sign interacted with her water number. And so it was through that I was able to see exceptions to the rules. Other than that, I'd have lost my money. He says, Angela, don't waste your time with Courtney because he's a water sign and you fire and all that other stuff. So it allowed me to see those, shall we say, cosmic exceptions to the rule. And especially for those that couldn't remember their birthdays. So when I first started with astrology, their time rather, a person would say they were born at 7:53 p.m. I do the chart, prepare it, get it to them. Lo and behold, they found their certificate and they're born at 7:53 a.m. You and I know as astrologers, born at a.m. and 7:53 p.m. are two different time frames by an hour spread. There's a constellation, the movement of the stars and all that stuff. So this is why they need this, the time. The beauty with numerology, I didn't need the time because a lot of people, especially those that were born in the Caribbean, I noticed, and in the South, were not familiar with their birthdays. And I understand now why the elders would keep the birthdays in the Bible, because a midwife would come about a week or two later after the baby's born. And then she takes it to the hospital, and they really didn't care all that much. Well, the baby was born on this day, and the baby's name is spelled that way. So anytime, and as it being an astrologer, you will find that experience where a person, well, I'm not sure. My mother says I'm born here. The birth certificate I says there. But my attitude with a question like that is this: one of the milestones in a woman's life is to bring life into the world. Now, so I'll ask, is it the first, second, or third child? If it's about two or three, they know. They know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was moving the couch and then my water broke. And then there's always a story around the birth. So I'm going to always go with the mother over above what the birth certificate says at a hospital. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
yeah.
so this is one of the things. Now, if you had 14 children like our grandmothers and grandfathers, they came from 12 and 13, things get a little
Absolutely.
foggy after that. But if you just have one child or two or three, trust me, a mother knows exactly when she gave birth, because it is a major, major milestone in a woman's life, becoming a mother. So I try to use a little common sense, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. You knew all the way back in college. So, when I first started taking an interest in astrology, it was right around the time, it was my brother, in fact, who introduced me because he knew I would always look at, how they used to have the horoscopes in the newspaper? And I'd
Mm-hmm.
always look at that all the time, like, what does it say for Aquarians? And, this is before I knew about, the natal birth chart and how deep you can go with the houses and everything. But I started being fascinated with that and reading as much as I could on it. And along the way, it led me to numerology as well. And I purchased your book, Numbers and You, which you wrote way back then. I had a copy, a little paperback copy of your book that I used to leaf through as I was looking over charts and everything. So your book, Numbers and You, is a bestseller. And so you were a household name for me. And then I was thrilled when I started my podcast. And my first guest on my podcast was Brother Francis, who mentioned to me that you were a mentor to him when he
Hmm.
first started out. And he said, actually, Christina, you should reach out to Lloyd. And I was like, he would never. He said he's a very approachable guy.
Yeah.
And so I did, and you're here, and I'm just thrilled. But what inspired you to write that book? And what do you hope readers who are buying it and reading it today will take away from it?
Well, what happens is, as I was coming up in Harlem, once I returned from college, I was still living in Harlem. Um, I had just got married at that time, but I was working at a place called the Tree of Life Bookstore. We used to call it UCLA, not in California, but on the corner of the University of Lenox Avenue. That's what it was. And in this place, there used to be a brother named John Harris, a Virgo born September the 4th. And I was teaching then, and in fact, that's how I met Francis Revels Bay. I met him on December the 7th of 1978.
Remembers
That's when I
those
met
dates
him.
just like you.
Yeah, yeah, I met him on that. And so, I was so since I was, teaching there, John Harris would say, brother, when you gonna put that book out? And he would just run past me and say, go walking past me. I said, writing a book was the furthest thing from my mind, although I wound up really doing 7 books. But it was, but I thank John Harris to this day. And my first book, Numbers and You, was published over 45 years ago, and it still sells to this day. It has
Yes.
undergone revisions and looks and stuff, but that
Mhm.
book still sells. And I told them when I published it, that is Ballantine Books, that this is going to be a book that will sell forever as long as there is civilization. Because when you're dealing with universal principles, you and I know they never go out of style. And that's what it is. So 100 years from now, there's going to be other Aquarians, there's going to be other Geminis and Virgos and this and that and the other. They'll have a different name, a different time. They'll be born in a different year, but the principles will be the same. Where is their sun? Where is their moon? Where is their ascendant? Where is their Venus position? Where's their Mars position? Where's their North Node, South Node? What the house the sun is in, the house is in. Numerology even taught me when you tell me the time you were born, I can tell you what house the sun was sitting in at that time.
Wow,
Numerology
really?
also taught me history. So, for example,
Wow.
without revealing all of your time, would you like to tell me what time you were born?
Yeah, 6:15
AM or PM?
a.m. a.m.
So that means your sun was in the 12th house, in the house of Pisces.
First house. Yeah, first house.
Oh, the first house, that's 6:15. Yeah, so it all depends because normally the horoscope starts at 6 a.m. from 6 to 8, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I would say it would be right. You would be very close to the first house, although the way my mind works, if you're 6:15, that means you just creep into the 12th house. But if it's in the first house, it all depends on whether it's tropical astrology, conscious astrology. You see what I'm saying? It all depends on,
Yeah,
but I'm in the
that's
ballpark if you
really
notice.
interesting.
And I
Yeah,
did it
yeah,
just like that.
absolutely. That's amazing to me. So, so let's talk about during your journey, you've been on, I mean, you're internationally known. So you've been on shows like Oprah. You were on Oprah. You were on the Montel Williams show. Can you share a memorable experience or maybe like a surprising reaction that you received from an audience back then?
Well, yes. It all started with an interview I did in 1981 on WBLS, WLIB radio in New York City. And I was being interviewed by Judy Simmons, Then about a year or two later, I was a guest back on that same show with air personality Pablo Guzman, which wound up being a newscaster for a local TV station here in New York. Well, what happens is when I was reading people, because people was calling in and the phone line was booked. But Pablo Guzman's mother got in and I read her and she says, Pablo, you should go and take him to see if he could get a job there. I am so glad that man listened to his mother because it changed my life. I was
Mhm.
starving. I knew I wanted to do this. So, for example, just to digress a bit, when I got out of college, Dad asked me, my father asked me, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be a numerologist. And he burst with pride. Oh, we got the first doctor, with Black people, we got the first doctor in the family. You know what I'm saying? And he thought I was going to be a neurologist dealing with the study of the nerves. And about a week or two later, he said, what was that again? He must have went and told somebody, and they said, that's not it. So I said, I want to be a numerologist. And when I explained to him his natural inclination as a father to a son, well, how are you going to make a living? I had no idea. I just found something I really, really loved. Aquarians, we love helping people. Check. Uh, 99% of numerology is addition. Check. Okay. So it was a simple process to me. And so as a result, when I went on the show, then ABC affiliate here in New York picked me up as Regis Philbin and Kathy Lee at the time. I appeared on their show. And one of the first people I was on there was with Sammy Davis Jr. just before his passing. And then one of the
Wow.
things that happened was I told Kathy Lee that she would be probably married to this football player at the time named Frank Gifford. Why? They were both born on August the 16th, the same month and day. A year later, they got married. Okay. Then
Wow.
from there, I went to an off-Broadway play, and this young actor invited me backstage because he had heard about me. Somebody must have told him. I think one of the people that does the show that invited me there to the play. And he said he was born on the 28th. His wife was born on the 28th. He got married on the 28th. Their son was born on the 28th. It happened to be Denzel Washington. Okay. And what's
Wow.
amazing is this: when he got his first Academy Award, the presenter, um, uh, what's her name? I'll think of it in just a moment. She played Pretty Woman. Um, I'll think of it in
Oh,
just a moment. Julia Roberts.
yeah, yeah.
Well, when Julia Roberts, she was the presenter of his Academy Award. Well, Julia Roberts was born October the 28th, who presented it to him
Oh,
on
wow.
December 28th, you know? So I just thought it was very interesting. And I had other
Mm.
experiences like that where I met celebrities and things. So I've really, really been blessed.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's how I got on
Wow,
Oprah
this is
Winfrey's show. I've been on her. She flew me out to Chicago 3 times and I was treated very royally. People asked if what she does was real because she's a number two. She's an Aquarius two persons. Twos by nature are very affectionate. They're very tactile. They like to touch things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? And so she would talk, and she was known to by kind of resting her arm on the shoulder of the person she's talking to. It really made that connection. I think that's why she grew in such popularity. And they says, well, she really liked that. But I was invited 3 times on her show. And each time they flew me out to Chicago. That's how I met the first African American mayor of Chicago, Harold Washington.
okay.
He then sent a limousine for me. I went to his office, and to this day, I still have his signature on a card he gave me when I was in the mayor's office there in Chicago, Harold Washington.
Wow.
And he was an Aries, born April 15th.
What an exciting, what an exciting life. It all came about from you just following your bliss, following your
Mm-hmm.
joy,
Mm-hmm.
following your heart and what you wanted to do. And
And
doors just,
you have to be consistent. And here's another thing too. When I was beginning to get really deep into astrology and numerology, particularly, they talk about Pythagorean numerology. Well, I started reading about Pythagoras, and he went into Egypt, and he stayed in Egypt for about 20, 30 years before his death. And then one day it dawned on me, well, Lloyd, on what continent is the African continent? I mean, on what continent is Egypt? Egypt is on the African continent. So therefore, when I say sometimes numerology is an ancient African science, it is no offense to anybody. It is. When I had Dr. Ben Yekin, the famous historian of his day, he also testified when he went into the tombs of Egypt, there would be astrological symbols of the zodiac. You see, the beauty of the pyramid is the pyramid of Giza is built at the exact center of the world. You don't do that willy-nilly. I'm sorry, you just don't. It is
Right,
a testament to the ancient wisdom of the Egyptians and whatnot. So that's all. And I
right.
just say I'm going to be the baddest brother on the planet to do this. And I have done just that.
Yes, you have. Absolutely. Um, Thank you for sharing that. That's fascinating. And as you were talking, I was thinking about three or more different shows, conversations that we can have to follow this.
I got on Katie Couric's show because the producer didn't remember her birthday. And when she confirmed it, they called me down that very afternoon to be on her show. So if you go
Wow.
to lloyd-strayhorn.com, that particular website, lloyd-strayhorn.com, the first thing you do is you see me sitting on the director's chair with her interviewing me about the number 7. Because in the year of the 7, and she was born on January the 7th. So
It's
I've had a
amazing to
lot of
remember that.
fascinating experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So next question, for those who are new to numerology, what are some of the most common misconceptions or questions that you encounter?
Um, First of all, how does it work? And how could it be so accurate with just numbers? But the universal language is numbers. A computer alone is just run on zeros and ones. Imagine when you throw the other 8 numbers into the mix. Why you think you can't hit the $1 zillion lottery? Do you know what it takes to hit a lottery? And the numbers only go from 0 to 9, but it is a combination of the variations of them. If so, everybody would hit the lottery and everybody would be, uh, you know, um, kind of like wealthy, I guess, whatever the case is. And then I've had some school of thoughts that felt that what I do goes against the laws of God. And I can name them if you don't mind. I have no problems naming them. They are born again Christians. They are Seventh-day Adventists. They're Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay. What they don't know is when I went to school in Richmond, it was a seminary school because I really want to be a minister. I would sleep with a Bible under my pillow every morning. I would go to church every Sunday. I was the altar boy. Uh, you know, uh, Pastor Magley from India was the one that inspired me. And so I would learn these things. And so all the great religious doctrines say, honor thy mother and father, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt be no God, other God before me, etc. Similarly, especially the thou shalt not kill. So when these 3 groups come to me about, well, this goes against the laws of God, I says, well, can you explain to me why in the Old Testament, the 4th book of Moses is called the book of Numbers? And that God instructs Moses on the 2nd day of the 7th month to name the armies by their name and their poll. Can you also explain to me when you go further into the chapter of the book of the 4th book of Numbers, why each of the 12 tribes of Israel are given their specific numbers by God? And then I think they get upset with me and I says, well, can you name me a war since Cain killed Abel in the Bible, the first recorded murder, supposedly, that, there's a Protestant and a Catholic, there's the Muslims and the Hindus and other groups fighting against each other with, you know, I says, well, name me a war fought in the name of the sign of Aquarius. They can't name me one. Name me a war fought in the name of the number 6. They can't name me one. And then they get upset with me. But I try to use some common sense, Christina.
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah.
they name me a war fought in the name of a zodiac sign or a number, I'll stop doing what I'm doing. But I don't think it's going to happen no time soon. That's like we're going to
And that,
go
you
against
know,
all the
that
Aquarians, okay? So all the Aquarians, we got to go into hiding. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
yeah.
right.
But we know, and I know from, being a teacher for, I was an educator for so many years. People get angry about things that they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, a part of fear, what you don't understand. Once you start working with the material and understanding it, then, then that fear starts to, um,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of that anger and fear, and I'm okay with that because I really feel that things happen when they're supposed to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and people will, you know, uh, people will evolve at their own pace and when they're supposed to. And so,
And people
the
have
people who,
evolved because when I first started, we in the astrology numerology committee, if we walked around with an astrology or numerology book, we had to keep it in a brown cover wrap. So people wouldn't say, oh, what's that you're reading? Now fast forward this 21st century, it's nothing to read about your zodiac sign. You can Google it. It's like a household word. But then the question becomes, which is older of the two? Is it astrology or numerology? People, I say numerology. People are going to say, of course you want to say numerology, Lloyd, because you're a numerologist. But let me explain. You as an astrologer and I as a numerologist know one thing. When they come to you, my dear, they must give you information in numbers. They must give you the month they're born, the day they're born, the year they're born, and the time they're born, which I now call the GPS. So they know where the constellation was, okay? Stuff like that. And then they can erect a chart. So numbers had to precede astrology.
yep.
It's just that astrology is far, far more popular. So I became an astro-numerologist. So when a person says they're born on the 15th of February, yes, not only they're Aquarius, but me now they're an Aquarius 6 person. Let's say you have a person born on July 10th, which is the birthday of Nikola Tesla, by the way, the famous inventor. He is not just a Cancer, he's a Cancer 1 person. Okay. And David Dinkins, the first Black mayor of New York City, David Dinkins, was also born on that day, February, uh, July the 10th. Susan B. Anthony was born on the first coin that they made with a woman on it. Susan B. Anthony was born on February 15th, you know? So numerology helped me understand English. I learned English better. I learned history better. I learned grammar. I mean, numerology, if somebody said numerology would do all this for you, I'd have said, yeah, right. But it did. It really, really did. And so
So the
I'm
numbers,
dedicated to it.
so the numbers, start so you can put together the chart. And once you get the chart in place, then you have the 12 houses, and each
Yeah,
of the 12 houses
yeah.
needs something that tells you something. And not only that, Lloyd, you know, at the distance, talking about numbers, the distance, the angles formed between the planets, 30 degrees, 60 degrees,
You're always 3,
90
6, and
degrees,
9. That's right. 180
120,
degrees.
right?
It's
180
always,
degrees.
yeah.
All those are numbers that mean something and are powerful in interpreting the chart. So yeah, I um I get that and I
No,
understand that.
it's just amazing. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing. That's why Nikola Tesla says those who understand the 3, 6, and 9 understand the universe, which is true. Because you said with a horoscope, it's either 30 degrees, 60, 80, 90 degrees. It's always either in threes, sixes, or nine.
Mhm.
Even
Yep,
when you look at
yep.
the time of day, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, all
Yep.
three sixes and nines. So it's just,
12 months in a year. We can go
yeah,
on and
yeah,
on, can't
yeah,
we?
yeah. So every
Okay.
now and then they would throw in Ophiuchus, the 13th planet. They want to
Yeah.
squeeze it in between Sagittarius and Scorpio. So I get real popular for about 2 weeks when that comes out every periodically. Ophiuchus, I says, first of all, it's a weird name. It even says it anyway. But it's just anything. And the question is, who are the persons that said that when you're born into this constellation, you therefore are a Taurus? And who assigned it that the symbol should be a bull? But these are men of old that learn through observations that if a person is born in this time of the year, they tend to take on that attribute and they assign animal or human symbols to them because there are only 3 human symbols out of 12, which is Aquarius, Gemini, and Virgo, you know? And then, this stuff is fascinating. I thought I would retire. It's like, never, ever. And I'm nosy too.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like, what? I have
Me
issues.
too.
I'm going to
Me too.
counseling after a while, but it ain't gonna be right now.
I'm really loving this movie. So, the last question here.
Oh man, go ahead.
This is the last question, but we're going to do
No,
more.
I
We're going to,
enjoyed this. I'm
yeah,
enjoying
we're
this
going to do
questions. Go
more.
ahead. Mhm.
So the last question, let's talk about some of the global concerns that have happened. And I would like for you to try to tie it to numerology if you can. Like, were you surprised by COVID-19, um, the the climate change, the current political climate right now? Are these things that took you by surprise, or numerically did you kind of see was the writing on the wall?
It's more the latter of the writing on the wall. Let me start. When we entered 2020, the year 2000, the 21st century, I talked about because each number rules a color. The number 2 rules the color green. Ever since we've entered 2000, it's greenhouse, green this, green that. Everything is about the greening, okay? Things of that nature. So that doesn't surprise me. In 2023, the year of the 7, 2 plus 0 plus 2 is 3 is 7, I explained that the next 2 years moving forward would be a challenge to this nation. Why? Well, just as each person has numbers that are very favorable, there are numbers that are not as favorable or harmonious to them. And the opposition numbers to this country primarily are the 6, the 8, and the 9. Give you an example. And the Civil War was in the 1860s. What was it about? The North versus the South. What was the issue? Slavery. Okay. In the 1960s, what was it about? Civil rights, sit-ins, shed-ins, singing, all those kind of things. You know what I'm saying? And turn everything
Mhm.
around. What happens is in the period of the 8 and the 9. Now, 8 is a financial number. 8 is an opposition number to this country. So I explained that in 2023, that the next 2 years moving forward, which is 2024 last year, 2025 this year, there would be stress because the major opposition numbers to this nation are the 6, the 8, and the 9. Well, what is 8 rules? Finances. Didn't things start going up? I went into a supermarket before we entered 2025, and an organic lemon was a $1.50 for one lemon. Okay. Which meant if I wanted to get 2, we got to cough up $3. All right. So what I'm saying is, so if you notice, before we got to 2025, by the time we got here, rent gone up, food gone up, everything's gone up except a person's salary. Okay. The banks have been finagling the market. Okay, now they're realizing that the Fed and other entities connected with the banking industry has definitely been manipulating gold and silver and the stocks and things of that nature, and everything is about to come to a head. But fast forward, of all the numbers, this is the most problematic year for them because 2025 adds up to a 9. 9, and you can relate to this being an astrologist governed by the planet Mars. The United States is under the sign of Cancer. And so we know that the moon has its fall in Mars. And so therefore, and what does Mars rule? It is the war planet. And since the latter part of last year into this year, wars are escalating. And it's really getting out of hand. And not only that, but people are on edge. 9 is governed by Mars that deals with conflict. On the positive side, 9 is a humanitarian number, universal, global, international, inspirational. You bring out the best in people. You show human love that no matter what part of the human family you come from, you show humanity where the God in me loves the God in you. Okay.
Ninth house.
Yes. However, this year it seems like now when people want to hate each other, I read an article about maybe 2 months ago how road rage has increased in California. But California's birthday is this. California was formed on September the 9th of 1850, and 9 rules fires. And how did the year start up in California? All those thousands and thousands of acres burned. Okay. 9 also rules New Jersey, which is December the 18th. And in fact, in December of 2024, there were a rash of fires in Jersey, and then it just spread all over the place in California. So 9 to the negative rules: accidents, arguments, conflicts, dangers, explosions, fender benders, you know, dangers from knives, guns, sharp instruments. I tell people this is not the year to kind of lose your temper. This is your year to temper it. And especially when Mercury's retrograde, because Mercury went retrograde on March the 14th of this month and will end on April 7th of next month. Okay. And then it's all under water signs, which deals with emotions. So people, as they say nowadays, are what, Christina? They're into their feelings. So that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
so to do it with do it amount of intelligence. So I'm not surprised, but it's unfortunate that people want to take the more narrow negative side of it. So where politicians would debate, that's one thing, but now politicians hate each other. That's the negative side of Mars. People, instead of de-escalating, I thought the 47th president, bless his soul, said he will be the one that have no wars. Well, things are escalating in the Middle East. Things are escalating now. And I mean, it just seems counterintuitive to what the real 9 should be, which is showing humanitarian love, that we all love each other. We're all in the same boat. So what's going to happen is there's almost talking about a financial crash, that things are teetering in the stock market, that world. Then people are on edge. It's just not a good time for the nation. Now, the next 2 years of 2026, 2027 will be good because the nation's numbers are the 7, 2, 1, and 4. This country has 4 numbers where most people only have 3 numbers. So I guess once we ride out this year, but already into the 3rd month, what had it been? Plane crashes, wars, explosions. Not
Yeah.
good, not good, not good.
And
And it's
that's
not me. I mean, people can study it for those that
right,
understand the nature of planets,
right,
So,
right. It's like when, in astrology with the transit study, once you get a feel of the energies at play, you have a better chance of navigating those energies to get you through because it's all about the numerical cycles, right? The energy
yeah,
cycles.
yeah.
And just learn how you say to fly to the higher level and navigating instead of sinking to the depths. And so I
And
just
see,
say,
hmm?
this conversation has been fascinating for me, and I can't wait, till we do it again. And so, to any of the people who are watching, I will put Lloyd's information on the video description so you can learn more, see more. And you're always on social media, right? You have a
Yes,
show
yes.
that you do.
Mm-hmm. They can go to my link tree, linktr.ee/ numbers in you, named after the book, linktree / numbers in you. And I would encourage people to download my app. I have a numerology app for a mobile app for your phone. It's called a star 8. Think of a star in the heavens with the number 8 attached to it. So it's ASTAR, the number 8, and you just download it on your phone. iPhone, Android, it's ASTAR, the number
Wow.
8. You download
Wow.
it, tell you your lucky numbers because we all have angelic numbers. And so
Okay.
before I leave Angel Christina, your angel numbers are always the 6, 2, and 7. Now, what does that mean? That means your best days are always on a Monday and a Friday, more than any of the days in the week, or all dates. And then you have angelic dates. So your angelic numbers are the 6, 2, and 7. Your angelic days are Friday first, then Monday. Then your angelic dates will be the 2nd, the 6th, the 7th, the 11th, the 15th, the 16th, the 20th, the 21st, the 20th, the 25th, 24th, the 25th, and the 29th of the month. And your angelic months will always be in the months of March and May and July, which your daughter is born in the month of October. These 4 months are normally very significant to you to some degree or another. You're born on the 15th, that denotes money, gifts, and favors from others. Normally, sixes do well in the world of service. They do well in the world of counseling. They do well in the world of real estate, banking, and law. You know, sixes have nice taste, almost everything they like, they can't afford. And yet, sixes can be so stingy, they can be squeeze the brown off the penny. But if it's something they want, they're going to figure out how they're going to get it. Well, will it be on sale next week? Can I buy one and get one free? You know, those kinds of things. And I have an online course. It's on Udemy. I have over 6,000 students in 7 continents around the world. And they just go to Udemy. And my series is Learn from Lloyd, How to Read a Person Like a Book. And how to read a person like a book come from the number 6. So when they say a person has a sixth sense, that's you. And the psychic numbers in numerology are the 2, 6, and 7. And my dear, you possess all 3. So I would never play you. We could be out one day and I'm with you, you with me. And the guy says, okay, Lord, I want to give, and you say, honey, don't give that man your money. I be saying, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I give the money and get burned. You say, see, I told you so. So you don't win. But yet you got a heart of gold. And people always come to you for advice, for counsel. It rules the nose, the throat, the upper part of the lungs, sinuses, allergies, heart palpitations, irregular blood circulations. It tells me that all the numbers, your best medicine is complement of Mother Nature, sunlight, fresh air, and a brisk walk around the park. So anytime you're not feeling well, just go sit outside and bask in the sun. Turn your face to the sun, breathe in air. That will do more than any medication they could prescribe to you. So each number has its own health indicators.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to, I think I'm going to repurchase that book and download your app so I can stay
Yes,
afloat.
download the app. And if you give me your address, I'll mail you an autographed copy of Numbers in You. I mean, I could send it to you by way of Amazon, but I want to put my John Hancock on it from you.
Okay. And I'll do the same for you. I will
Good.
send
Good.
you mine and we'll talk about that later.
Good.
But thank you so much for taking time out. You're so incredibly busy. So thank you so much for taking time out to
I'd love
honor
to
me
come
with your
back. I'm
presence.
inviting myself back whenever you have me. And by the way,
Absolutely.
I want the viewers to know that Christina will be on my show on May the 7th. It's a Wednesday. And I did that deliberately because May is one of your months and the 7 is one of your numbers. And you know what's interesting about that date on May 7th? Did you know no president has ever died in the month of May? Nor have they ever died on a date that added to a 7? Did you know that?
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, all this is in my books.
Okay.
I got issues.
But we'll be in touch before then as
Sure.
well.
Sure, but I
All
want
right.
people to
Love
know
and
on your
light to the
podcast, you'll be on
audience.
mine.
Love and light to the audience, Lloyd, and love to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.